Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. I have with me Commander Sandeep Dhawan. He is not only a naval officer, he is also a flyer and he's current, right? And he's flown almost all the aircraft which are loafing around and which probably you and I have traveled. So he's got a bird's eye view and underwater view also. Great. And of course, he lives on land, so that's how it is. Right. Today we're going to discuss something very interesting. He wrote a fantastic article, in Chanakya Forum on the chaos which is likely to unfold in the next 10 years and how we're going to navigate it. And what are the ingredients of this chaos and how Xi Jinping, as per his opinion, is the author of this chaos, or rather the sutradhar of this chaos, besides other things happening. And that's what we're going to discuss. We're going to get his views and see. And because, like him, I also think the next 1 decade is going to be very crucial for India's rise. And whatever happens in the next 10 years is going to define how India grows in the future. Right? And just to give you the head up for that, as we are talking, there's a storm brewing outside my house. and we are live, so we are entering a stormy season. But that's part of the deal. Storms will come and go, and nations will continue to rise. So, with this kind of a foreground or a bit of a background, I'd like Sandeep, take it on, all yours. The subject is yours. Navigate the way you want, and I'll interject. Please carry on.
Good evening, everybody. Namaskar, Shankar. As General Sir has just introduced me, Sandeep Dhawan, ex-Indian Navy, and it's always a pleasure. This is the second time I'm coming on his channel. So, generally I don't find time. So, Sir asked me about I think almost a week back, Sir, 10 days back. So, yeah. So that's how I landed up here. So it's I would straight away jump into the topic of today. And that is because in my study, in fact, 2018 onwards, I've been writing articles. I've been stating in various of my videos that 2025 onwards, the world is going to be chaotic. And the main players we all know would be 2 of them, that is USA and China. But it is going to affect India's next decade also, because we are not aloof. We are part of this community, and we are growing at unprecedented rate, which has not been seen earlier. And I'm not just talking about GDP wise, but otherwise also. So if you see why I've been saying this, and like Sir said, he's also been part of this think tank which is talking about the next chaotic decade. Because if you look around, the world is already on the verge of chaos. You go to Africa, the Saleh region, the Congo, or you come up and you have Lebanon, Syria. You move eastwards, then you have Iran-Israel tension. You have India-Pakistan tension, India-China tension, China-Japan, China-Philippines, China-Indonesia, North Korea, South Korea, competition between China and USA, Russia and Ukraine, and the Russia's distrust with the West, and West distrust with Russia. So it is very, very chaotic. And so what are the things which are emerging, and who is the interested party in this? As I said, China and US, everybody's talking about. In fact, there is one gentleman called Allison Graham, if I'm not wrong, or Graham Allison, I think. Graham Allison, yeah. So he coined a word called or term called Thucydides trap. That means what he wanted to say was that rising power will always challenge a established power. Okay, so in this case, he wanted to say was USA is being challenged by China. I somehow not agree fully with him. Okay, so the whole chaos today happening in the world, I would say it is the decline of USSR followed by Russia and the rise of China. Because if you notice, who has brought the China up? There are two very important dates we must remember, though China doesn't agree with that, but two very important happenings, I would say, rather than dates. That is China's recognition, rather Nixon's visit to China in 1972, and USA's recognition of China, and then entry into UN in 1979. That followed by 2001, China's entry into the World Trade Organization. These two happenings just changed the whole landscape. It has changed the future of the world, and it has affected especially these two nations. Because now, if you see why China was being propped up, was just to bring the USSR down. And that is where USA rather made a grand mistake in the grand strategy that we will, that's a different subject altogether. We will discuss sometime later with Sir. But we'll stick to this. So these are two important happenings. And if you notice, in 1990, China's GDP was lesser than India. But within 10 years, one decade, by 2000 or early 2000, 2002 or so, China's GDP had grown 3.4 times India's GDP. So that is the kind of growth they saw in that decade. And I foresee this 25 to 35 is the decade for India in the similar fashion, but on a very, very broader landscape, broader perspective. Now, China does not agree with those two dates because they don't want to give credit to USA for their rise. So they have two very important dates in their mind. And those dates are 1st August 1927 and 1st October 1949. And we are heading for centenary of that. So 1st August 2027 and 1st October 2049 are going to be the 100 years of, first happening is 100 years of PLA in August 2027, and then formation of People's Republic of China in October 2049, that is 100 years. So China aimed very smartly. I really give credit to them because they said, in fact, the original date was not 2027 but 2035, but they have advanced it, and I'll come to that later. So 2027, they want PLA to be, they call it a very weird term, intelligencization warfare.
Intelligentization.
Okay.
Intelligentization. Yeah.
And so they have already achieved two aims, which are informationized warfare of PLA and mechanization. These have already been in by 2020 or so. They have already achieved. What is informationized warfare is that you use all kind of social media, all kind of propaganda to showcase your country or your personality as 10 feet tall person and all very strong, very. So if you see all around us today, every country feels that China is very strong. China has got this. China has got the magazines and newspapers. The Western media is awash with the China talk. Okay, and it is done by Chinese people. The Chinese agencies are behind the scenes, and they are paying the best of the writers. They are paying. In fact, in India, if you see, their inserts, they keep coming in various newspapers. That is all China's propaganda, just to promote their culture, just to promote their might and the Chinese way of life, kind of thing. Now, what they are aiming by 2027, which is very scary. Okay, if you look into that, that intelligenceization warfare, it's all artificial intelligence based, AI based, and it is going into the cognitive space, which is going to be very, very difficult for a normal human being to understand and fight, because he would not be even aware that this is happening with that person, and his thinking will change, because that is what they've already achieved within their own country. Okay, and that's another topic I will talk sometime later with sir, or maybe some other forum. I've written an article on that, that how they have created shields around the Chinese internet, the Chinese information flow. They have created all kind of social media platforms. So whatever they want to feed to Chinese people, they are feeding. They get nothing from outside. So this is their aim for 2027. And by 2049, they want to be reaching all corners of the world, performing the way USA is performing. They're looking after their business interest and looking after all kind of activities, giving security and all kind of covers to their forces, as well as the business interest. So, any other things, sir, you want
Yeah,
me to continue?
yeah. What you said is right. Let me add on a few things which you said. Why this creates a chaos and what is their aim and all. You see, their rise has been disruptive by nature. They have done things which, like you rightly said, too much on uh, propaganda, information, and cognitive warfare and all that. So they have actually been able to project something which they are not, and that's the fact. Like you said, they've achieved two aims of mechanization and informatization. That's what they state.
That's
But
right.
have they done it? That's the big question.
That they claim, and they have
Yeah,
made people believe that.
they make, yeah, that's the important part. They
That's the
claim
important part of
they
it.
made people believe that, look, we have mechanized and we have informatized. And every day, if you read the Chinese media, you come, one day they've done this, one day they've done that, and they've got the fastest radar, they've got the most, the fastest jet, they've got the deepest submarine, all things like that will come, and and the Mac, 30 Mac, and this and that, and all that nonsense.
That's right.
But that's part, like you said, part of their cognitive warfare. They're already psyching you, look, they can't be defeated. And they're looking at, like you said, the third wave or the fourth wave, as they call it, for intelligentization through AI. Right? But in
That's right.
this process, they feel that things will change and go everything their way. And this is backed by two, three things. One is, of course, they've got the feeling that, look, through technology, everything, they'll rule the world, and their GDP will keep going up, and they want to reinforce the fact that they're the manufacturing power of the world, and through manufacturing power and technology, they'll rule the world. That's their thinking, right?
That's right.
We can't stop it. And then they had three, four initiatives like the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Civilizational Initiative. All this has
That's
been built on the BRI, and that means that they're aiming to a Sino-centric world order. I just thought I'll add all this on. You can take on, please.
Yes, sir. So now coming to the reality part of it. Okay, enough of talking about what they achieved or what they claim to achieve. So reality is this, that though they are projecting all this, but are there generals who are the bosses? Maybe at the junior level, some officers understand these terms, understand the how to implement these terms and utilize these things. But the senior ones, the senior generals in their forces, are they capable enough to understand what is informationization warfare, or what is intelligence? I'm not even able to,
I understand.
pronounce this word, because there's in English there's no such word. They have coined themselves. So. As per the US intelligence, there is the generals are not able to understand, but because of the yes man culture in their service, they all are agreeing with the concepts, and they're saying, okay, yes, we will implement it. Part number one. Part two, let us take one by one the rocket force, which is the mainstay. In fact, Xi Jinping was depending on rocket force to take on, because that is the mightiest force they had created, and it's a modern force. But if you remember what happened early 2024, almost a dozen generals and commanders of this force were purged. Even their defense minister could not survive, and he was also, now he's gone. He's been erased from Chinese history and every kind of their documentation, because the rocket force, what they were claiming, was actually not that mighty, because their missiles were filled with water, and which has come out. But what kind of parts were missing, or substandard parts were there, or what claims they were making, capabilities of their missiles, they were actually there that capable, or once again, it was a tall 10 feet Xi Jinping who was talking about this. Second thing comes to the PLA Air Force. Now, PLA Air Force pilots, their training is substandard. I'm not saying they're not changing, they're changing. In fact, if you remember, in about 6 months back, a lot of Western retired military pilots were arrested, or being hauled up for parting training to the Chinese Air Force. If Chinese Air Force was so mighty, why they had hired Western fighter pilots to give training to them? The reason is very simple. The Chinese pilots, first of all, their training, the flying is very less. Second thing is they depend too much on the command center. Because of the structure of the force, they look for every instruction from the command center, and which in today's world has got a tremendous impact on the when you are on the scene and you have to take decision, but you're not able to take decision, and you pass it on to command center, who are not getting 100% picture, and they have to decide and again relay back to you that this is the action you have to take. Third thing, I come to their PLA Navy. Recently, one of their Joy class submarine, that sank alongside in a dockyard. So that puts a question mark on their training, their SOP, that how come a modern submarine could sink alongside in a dockyard. So these are the main things, but the major thing which is against them, and they themselves, the generals of the PLA, they call it a peace disease. That means that we have not fought any war. Today, there are only two generals in PLA who have seen any kind of action. Other than that, their armed forces have zero experience in a war. And sir would agree with me that doing exercises in peacetime and using same equipment, same manpower, and same techniques in a warfare are totally different ball game altogether. because now you are not between red and blue force, but you are against an adversary, and that adversary has got everything at stake. So these are the things which would constrain, and they have rather constrained Xi Jinping till to date. Okay, and I'll come back to that, why and how and what all shuffling he has done. But these are the constraints. And
Yeah,
but I will,
yeah.
yeah, if you want to add something, then I'll come
Yeah,
later.
I will add because I think you made some very important points. Uh, the important point which you made is that pilots, they need to get trainers from outside to train their pilots. And they, while they say that they have the latest aircraft and they've copied the J-35 and stealth aircraft and all that, they really don't have pilots to, fly. In fact, they don't have good aircraft to fly off their carriers. In fact, their
That's right,
carriers
sir.
aircraft. That's a fact of life. They're huge ships without aircraft. And it's not only that, they don't have captains to man their ship. Everyone says, PLA has the biggest navy, but they don't have captains. They don't have the manpower to, right? Most of their ships are small size ships, lesser tonnage, which are good to be on the coast. But what happens when you go into the deep blue seas? You need good captains to, go and fight out there. So that I think is a very important thing, which is also a problem with them. And the important thing which you said is about this peace disease. People keep forgetting. Peace disease है ना, even we have to remember. यार peace disease का
Absolutely.
नाम कुछ है, ठीक है? How does peace disease affect people? See, you look at it, like you rightly said, informatization, mechanization, intelligentization. अरे यार जिंदगी में आज तक हमने नहीं सुना तो ये कौन सा इन्हीं वाले आके they'll tell all this. So the untested theory.
That's right.
Anything you don't test doesn't work in battle. All this new equipment, which are sinking just on the in the ports itself, right? Or are just taking off and falling off. After all, they've had their problems with their missiles also. How will they perform
Absolutely.
in war under duress? And they're men.
Absolutely.
The acid test of battle is when a bullet is fired at you. And I've had that experience I still remember when I heard the first round. That bullet was not fired at me. When I heard the
Yeah.
first round which was fired in battle conditions, my stomach turned. I'll be very honest, and I panicked for 2-3 minutes. मैंने कहा यार ये कहाँ से हो गया? Till things took over, and then one
Yeah.
got used to the idea of thing. So I think you're right. This peace disease is something which is dangerous, and that's untested. Whether all this will work in war is a big theory, right?
So that's right, sir. And so I'll just continue. These are the things which are going to constrain Xi Jinping. But we all know that the Communist Party, Chinese Communist Party, gets its power from the people whom they are continuously giving, the growth or the kind of money that they got used to, and more money and more facilities, bigger phone, better phone, this, that. Now, if that thing stops, that becomes a major problem because they are already living in conditions which are I just cannot explain, okay, because we don't experience, we just take it for granted living in India or living in democratic countries. A lot of things are taken for granted, but just knowing that you're 100% being watched every time, anytime you're moving around, you cannot take any step. So basically they are the canary in a coal mine,
All
okay, or living in a golden cage, the cuckoo bird living in a golden cage, because The freedom, what you and me experience, it is not existing in that country. And that is the ultimate human achievement. But now this is not happening today. It's for 1600 years. Let me tell you, the psyche has developed over 1600 years. The China has been under occupation. Out of that, 800 years were complete occupation, and about 300 years was a partial occupation, and thereafter various forces from within have been subjugating the local populace. Now, so the when the money power stops coming, money stops flowing, that becomes a major challenge for the leaders. And Xi Jinping knows about it. He is well aware about it. And so, what's the best thing to overcome such situations? Start a war. Starting a war has got two advantages. You'll be surprised that the country's GDP goes up when a war starts, by the way. And because GDP, if you see the parameters, how it depends is the what is the production, what is the consumption, blah blah blah. So the production and consumption both go up in a war, and then the people also, they join the chorus, they join the forces, they start they become nationalistic, and we have to fight, we have to sacrifice for the country, and blah blah blah. So the war is the best thing to overcome financial difficulties being faced by China. And I will present a few figures which Chinese people, or rather the whole world knows about it, that till 1990, the growth rate was phenomenal, 9%, 10%, has touched even 11%. The slowdown started in 2007, but the major slowdown started after Xi Jinping took over in 2013, and the COVID-19 was disastrous for them. Because after that, their growth has been very erratic, between 2.2% to 5.9%, going up, down. And even some other economic experts, they claim that even these numbers are fudged, okay? They are almost 2% enhanced by what actual numbers are. So this is a major challenge facing them. They many experts, they started claiming, I don't know whether China was feeding them to claim this, because obviously they are in that informationized warfare phase. So they said China will overtake US economy by 2020. Did not happen. 2028 they claim. Now then they revised it to 2030. Now they are revised it to 2035. And from London Economic Center to various other experts are agreeing that. In fact, one Japanese Economic Center and one the Queen's College in London, their president, they claim that maybe that China will never overtake USA. Okay. However, the one study states that China would overtake USA for 21 years, and 2057 USA would again come back, and 2081 India would overtake USA. So these are various studies, but somehow now from 2022, 2020, the date has shifted now to 2035. That kind of shift has taken place, and it is really hurting China, because the main driver of their economy was the construction sector. That has collapsed. That is $8.4 trillion sector, almost 48% of their GDP. Then Xi Jinping went after tech companies, and tech companies have lost collectively $1 trillion in since the attack took place on their sovereignty. So it is a very tough road for them ahead. Last year, in 2024, more than 12 million graduates passed out, only 55.5% were they got placement. So the lying flat, it's a rot. These are various terms floating in China. Lying flat means we don't want to work. It's the rot means I take responsibility. Somebody has to be a loser, so I take that I'm the loser and I will not work. Then children are becoming full-time children to their parents, and parents are giving them stipend so that they don't get into the 969 cycle they call. They don't get into that. So it's a major attack on their projected growth, and they're getting really frustrated. In fact, by 2035, close to 30%, rather over 30% of their population would be 60 years or older. Almost 24.8% or so population would be more than 65 years old. So the working class numbers are shrinking, and rather their population is also shrinking. From current 1.41 billion, they will reduce to 1.39 billion by 2035. So all these parameters indicate that 2035 becomes very crucial. Because let's say 2035, because as we have shifted dates from 2020 to 2028 to 2030, 2035 is also not sacrosanct. It might shift. And that is the thing when they will come to know or think that it is not achievable. Xi Jinping is capable of doing unthinkable. That is what is my take on that. What will make him mad and take which is not good for the world.
Yeah, I go with you completely, because the way things are going, or the slippage between what they have planned and what they are actually achieving on ground, is day by day increasing. The slippages are increasing. As slippages are increasing, there is social unrest in China. And Xi Jinping himself is getting older. I mean, he's not getting any younger by the day.
That's right.
And there are a lot of shuffle of generals, which you already said. There's no leadership. There's problems. The GDP is not going. In fact, it's deflating. If not for inflated figures, the GDP will be already in deflation. So with this kind of a thing, he has to divert, and he will divert. And that's the expectation.
That's right.
So he will do the unthinkable. I mean, we should know that he'll do the unthinkable. Like Trump, we know he will do the unthinkable. Same with this fellow also, he will do the unthinkable, and we have to prepare for it. And yeah, so please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So in this, there are two happenings, or rather two very important crisis world is facing. One is Israel, Iran, and Lebanon, Gaza, whatever you call it. It's triangle or hexagonal, or that is very important. This 60 days truce, I'm telling you, this is going to break, or at least the interested parties would try to destroy that within 60 days, or maybe after 60 days. And certainly China is interested in doing that, because for the first time in many decades, there was no carrier battle force in South China Sea, because USA was busy this. And I written this in my article that for the first time, so China could achieve the aim of distracting USA from South China Sea back to Middle East, from where they were actually vacating. They were leaving that place vacant for China. You enter there, because they were not interested. They are shifting their priorities. And China very smartly got them engaged there. And I suppose, USA also understood this thing, and they are responsible for this truce for 60 days. But what will happen after that? It is anybody's guess. Then
one thing I'd like to put across.
Sir?
Today, the news has come that a nuclear-powered carrier has already moved into Japan.
So that's it. USA. So that was missing from there, sir.
Yeah,
In
it's come back.
decades, it has never happened that the carrier battle group is but carrier battle group is there in South China Sea. It happened. China achieved that. And
But they're back.
second happening is,
They're
sir,
back. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that George Washington, the nuclear powered carrier, is back in Japan,
yes, that's right.
right?
So
Yeah.
second happening is between Ukraine and Russia, and that is keeping the whole of Europe, if not USA, but all the Western powers, the so-called Western powers, on the toes. Okay, and so they are in no position to vacate their posts, their positions there in Europe, and come and fight any war in the South China Sea. This has got two-pronged kind of achievements. One is that USSR, or rather not Russia, if it continues to be engaged in that war, it continues to get weakened because they are losing the forces. They're losing their equipment. They're losing their every kind of loss is happening, and they're just surviving on oil. The all kind of production may be stopped, and everything, all kind of forces, all kind of factories, all kind of resources being put towards the war, and that is what is sustaining their GDP. That's why you see sometimes the claims are that their GDP is high. It is happening because of war and not because of some real work or some research work is going on in that country. So these are the two things, and China would be more than happy that these two wars continue. The interested parties remain engaged there, so that China is free to move around in South China Sea, East China Sea.
Yeah, what the interesting point which you made is about the Russian GDP, which has gone up after the Ukraine war has started. And the more interesting part is, should this war go away at some one fine day, you will find that the Russian GDP will fall, and you will
That's right.
find
That's right.
a weak Russia emerging. A weak Russia which is beholden to China is advantageous to China.
It is
That's a very
advantageous.
important point which you have made, and which people don't understand,
That's
right?
right.
And so that a weak Russia is dangerous, and for the Europe, and so to that extent, there will be a huge reluctance in that area to switch off from the war or disengage from each other. So that is a problem which I think China will propagate. So I think, I mean, what you have said is right on the head. But as far as Israel, West Asia, Iran, and Lebanon and Hezbollah are concerned, while what you said is right, there's a new development which has happened in the past 3 days, which none of us foresaw. I don't know where it will go. That's like a wild card, and that wild card is Aleppo has been attacked by rebels, and the rebels won't attack or restart their campaign in Syria if Iran was strong enough.
That's
Somewhere
right.
there's an instability of a different kind which I foresee which will come out in the next 1 month. And that month
In,
is like this 1 month will be crucial to know which direction it is going, whether Chinese plans will succeed or not. But then
in fact,
it's
sir, in
premature thing.
Lebanon,
It's
in
premature.
Lebanon, yes, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
In Lebanon, for 2 years, there was no president. There was no leadership
Yeah,
because of differences with Hezbollah. Now, Hezbollah is weakened, so the opposing forces will try to take advantage of the situation, try to install their president, try to install other leadership, which will upset Hezbollah very much, and that would rock the boat again.
yeah, I agree with you.
That's what is going to happen there. Now, I'll just come back to China once again. And the Xi Jinping, when he took over, sir, there was a magazine in Hong Kong. It's called Wen Wei Po. And in 2013, okay, first of all, we must know this, that nothing gets published in China without the consent of Chinese Communist Party, CCP. So there was an article which got published, and maybe it was on behest of Xi Jinping, because he somewhat agrees with the dateline. So it was the article name was these are the 6 wars China must fight in next 50 years. Okay. So those are the date starts from the year starts from 2020. Okay, and the first war was the unification of Taiwan between 20 and 25. Okay, second war was the reconquest of Spratly Islands, which is between 2025 to 2030, and 2035 to 2040 40 was reconquest of Arunachal Pradesh. These are the 3 wars I am mentioning, because balance 3 years with the conquest of islands, Rikaku Island in Japan, and one more island, then Mongolia, and then Russian territory. But first, let's focus on these 3 wars, because these are seriously affecting us, and these are the wars which they plan. They are very close to our current era we live in. Now, you would say it has not happened. The unification with Taiwan has not happened between 2020 to 2025. So, Xi Jinping or the generals of PLA, they realize that they are not ready. Okay. And so this is my understanding, this is my feeling, that they shuffled around with the aims in that, the when we would do what. So they shifted their war with India, or the reconquest of Arunachal Pradesh with India in that period, and that is what you see in 2020. The trouble at the border started, and always remember, we must always be rather ready that any time any big world event is happening. Okay, like in 1962 war, when the Cuban Missile Crisis was happening, that is the time China attacked us. Okay, because the world attention was diverted. Similarly, in 2020, when the COVID-19 was happening, world's attention was diverted. They came across the LAC. And thereafter, we all know that how the whole forces were face to face each other, and anytime war can start with the small spark, and it can small spark can turn into a war. So it was a very tense situation, because we are staying away from the LAC, and we are not aware of all the situations and what is happening there. But it was a really serious and concerning situation there. Beral, that has passed. But in my feeling, the first and second war, that is between 2025 to 2035 war, they have combined, and so rather 2020 to 2030 war, they have combined and just shifted by 5 years. And these 2 wars would be, they will start working on it from 2025. And that is the reason behind the thaw with India. All the agreements, because now they cannot stay diverted away from these 2 wars, which are going to happen on their eastern seaboard. So they cannot remain engaged with India, and cannot have so many forces engaged there. If you know, almost 40,000 their forces are there in the Tibet region, 70,000 in Xinjiang, and 1.2 in their Western command. So it's overall almost close to 2.3 lakh forces are there in the Western sector or closer to India. You cannot have those forces there, because otherwise you will not be able to engage with Taiwan or the Philippines. So these actions, I suppose, they have completely shifted that side. And if you see, notice when in Brazil, when sorry, not in Brazil, but in Russia, when we have the BRIC conference, where on the sidelines of BRICS, the Prime Minister met Xi Jinping. Look at his body language. Prime Minister was all smiles and happy, whereas Xi Jinping was grumpy because he had not, vouched for this day. He had not dreamt of this day, that he has to back down and swallow the pride. So that is what has happened to him. And that is my firm belief that they are shifting now their focus back to that side. And these two wars have been combined. And that is what is going to be chaotic, because even though we have this agreement with them, but it's an unfinished business. It is not resolved. The business is not resolved. The LSE issues are not resolved. So, what would happen when the war breaks out in, let's say, South China Sea or East China Sea, or over Spratly Islands? What would happen? Because India's 55% of trade passes through South China Sea, whereas China's only 64% passes, because they have the Caspian trade route under BRI. Okay, it's called middle path or middle corridor, basically they call it, and they have CPEC. Okay, but I would give higher rating to the Caspian corridor. It's called Trans-Caspian Transport some corridor, and or route rather, and because that is connecting to Europe, and that passes through Xinjiang, and CPEC, which passes through Pakistan, where huge disturbances there, and dependence on CPEC for them is not very great, as well as the terrain is very difficult, and maintenance of CPEC is poor, especially in winter season when many places are inaccessible. And main advantage for India is that both China and USA know that India is the only country which is in position to take on both the routes passing via Xinjiang, because we have wherewithal and the reach and the location. India's location, a lot of people have undermined, including Indians itself. Okay, but India's location is superior. It is, in fact, somebody had asked you, sir. I think I read on Twitter that why I have not spoken about maritime part of this in this article, because the article already have cut down. This article was 3,000 words. I had to cut down
Yeah, yeah.
to 1,900 words, and I said I cannot cut down more than that. So that's a very big topic, maritime side, and that would take another 2 hours to cover. So that's what. So India is in very unique position, very strong position, and we should not punch below our weight, and we should be commanding a position rather than still looking up to the forces. And we are doing that up to a certain extent, especially under the present dispensation. We, especially the European and the Western outlook about India has completely changed. I travel a lot to Europe, and I can vouch for that.
Yeah, I think so. What the important thing which you mentioned is that India's location is unique, and India's geography is far more favorable than the Chinese geography. The Chinese geography is hemmed in. It's got all the first island chain countries: Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Vietnam, Taiwan, all around it. It can't break out, right? It can be accessed if USA has bases from there. It can access within 100, 200
Absolutely.
kilometers. You hit the Chinese mainland. But that's not true for India. You can't touch India from 700 kilometers away. And you
That's
have
right.
still high barriers of Himalayas. Why China has not come is because they can't cross the Himalayas. They know it.
That's right.
I mean, forget India has no more of 62. And what you said is right. I think it's a very important point you make when you say we in India have a tendency to underrate ourselves. देखो यार बड़ा सिंपल है एक हाथी को अपना शक्ति का पता नहीं चलता यू नो द हाथी का
Yes,
जो
sir.
शक्ति है वो दूसरों को महसूस होता है हाथी को खुद नहीं महसूस होता है दैट्स आवर प्रॉब्लम
Yeah.
एंड व्हाट यू सेड इज राइट व्हाट यू आई मीन सिंस यू आर सो वेल ट्रैवल्ड एंड यू कीप गोइंग ऑल अराउंड and you're flying overseas and you would know what people think about India. You
That's
have
right.
the outside view or almost on a daily basis. So I think that's a very important point you make. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So now we have to get ready for a couple of scenarios, sir. And so one scenario I've already told you that the war breaks out in South China Sea, East China Sea. Economically, it will affect us. So what are the India's options? What would India do? We have to start thinking on those lines today. Our leadership, military leadership, civilian leadership have to think. Would we be sitting on the sidelines? Would we jump into the war, or what is our role going to be? In fact, I had written an article about 2 years back that uh, China's Taiwan invasion and opportunity for India. I said, okay, if they are engaged that side, they would not have capability and capacity to fight a 3 or 4 front war. So that is the best time to take on China and take our lost territory of Aksai Chin. Because if we don't utilize that time, I don't think so. We will be able to get that land ever again, and rather liberate Tibet also, so that we have a buffer zone between India and China. But of course, this is my wishful thinking. Either I don't know whether the civilian and military leadership who are aware of the reality would agree with that or not.
No, I go
Second
with
scenario.
you.
Yes, sir.
No,
Yes,
I
sir.
go with you. Let's discuss this. Let's discuss this, which you
Yes, sir.
brought very interesting thinking. If there's a war in South China Sea or if there's a Taiwan invasion, it does open up an opportunity for us. And that's the time when you said, okay, we can retake Aksai Chin or retake Tibet and liberate Tibet. And while many people think it's a big thing and beyond our capability and all that, but if we have this thinking, then only we'll develop that capability.
Absolutely. So, in fact, I said that every war game should have this thing in that if the war breaks out in East China Sea, the every war game in India, Indian forces should have this how we will work on this aspect.
Yeah. And more than how we work on this aspect is, which actually the very important point which you made is the fact is that many people in India will support you. Emotionally, everyone wants to go there and retake Aksai Chin and, liberate Tibet. I'm also for it. But, and we also know that is the time when China will be diverted away. He'll be looking somewhere
That's
else.
right.
So, are we prepared for it? So, the main thing is we should prepare for it. And for preparing
Prepare
for
for
it,
it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
you have to develop your capabilities. That's the
that's right.
point which is important in the point you made. And yeah, if you could explain that a bit, and then we'll go to your second scenario.
Yeah. So
I mean, let me ask you this
the
question. What, in your opinion, will constitute developing capability for us to retake Aksai Chin or liberate Tibet in case China has committed elsewhere?
uh, I would my
Yeah, take it,
wish
take
look
a
would
shot. Oh, look, you
yes,
can
sir.
be absolutely
My
wrong. It
wish
doesn't
list,
matter.
my wish list
Yeah,
would be,
wish
sir,
list.
that we at least we are the armed forces are 70 to 80% indigenized. We have our own capabilities and capacities to produce the requirement of armed forces, meet requirement of armed forces within India. Because if we are not able to do that, we have to understand this, that when the war breaks out, forget about the war, without even war, Western countries have in the past stopped supplying equipment to us. When the war breaks out, they have all the reason that they will, just raise their hands and they say that, sorry, we cannot support you at this time. So if we don't have capacity by that time, and we prematurely attack China or something, maybe it is not prudent. But so maybe initial few years when the chaos has started beginning, we utilize that time to build up our capacity and capabilities, and thereafter, in the later part, when the fatigue sets in China, and the war fatigue, and the which is what we can see in Ukraine and Russia as well. So that is the time we have to maybe act. So
Yeah.
that is what is my take
Let
is
me
on.
sum up this option for you. What I have understood, and let me sum it up and put it in a different manner. So, which I think is a very, very, very logical thing which you said, and I think it's very good because unless we think offensively, we will not achieve anything. That's the first thing, which I appreciate what you have said. So it means the first thing is you have to have the capacity to undertake an offensive whenever,
Absolutely.
right? And for that, you have to start building today. And you have to be indigenous so that everything is homegrown. And your technology is homegrown, your weaponization is homegrown, and all that, so that also helps your economy to grow. And the next point which you made is you need to have a capacity to fight for long. That the war can go for 1 year, 2 years, we don't know. So you need to have the capacities to undertake sustained operations. And I think for both these, you need the will to do all this. The political will should be there that you should do all this. And then, of course, you need to choose the right time, like you were coming to. When will you do all this? When will you strike? When will the iron be hot to strike? Is a decision which our leadership has to take, and that decision will come only if you are thinking about it. If you're not thinking about it, what decision nahi aayega,
That's right.
right?
If you've not thought about it 100 times in peacetime,
It
it will
won't
not
come.
happen that time.
It will not happen that time. Come with you. The only thing which I'll add in all this is
Yes, sir.
don't take your eyes off this third-rate Pakistan. वो है troublemaker. Because वो है चाइना का पालतू कुत्ता है वो.
Yes.
So we have to keep track of how to handle Pakistan also in this, first scenario. Okay,
Absolutely.
let's get on to the second scenario.
So now second scenario is that what happens, because obviously it will not remain restricted. The war will not remain restricted to China, between China and the Western forces. Russia, in all likelihood, may jump in. Iran may support them or may start taking action. Okay, so what would be India's take? What would India do? Because India has got good relationship with Russia. India has got good relationship with Iran, and rather we are deepening relationship with both the countries. We have regular exchange with both the countries. So what would be India's take? How would we deal with that situation? Whether we would still be fighting with the coalition forces, we would be still sitting on the sidelines, we would support Russia and Iran. What would, because if we don't think all these things now, it will be very difficult during that time, because there would be thousand things happening, and now you can't start thinking that what should we do. If you have already forethought about it, there are chances that you will take a right decision at the right time. So,
Yeah,
because we in India, we believe, yes, and Russia has, or earlier USSR has supported us, but at the same time, the support was not 100%, support was not unconditional. If you remember 1962 war, rather USSR had stopped the supplies of MiG-21s. Okay, and they had assured China that we will not supply the MiG-21s to China, India, till the time war gets over. Okay, so these are the things. It is not that Russia has taken 100% India's side always. They had supported morally. Maybe sometimes they had supported it in words also, but that's about it. So we have to
Yeah,
weigh all those pro and cons and think in peacetime that what would be our action and reaction.
yeah, I go completely with you. So we need to think offensive. We need to think not only getting into action, you need to think of the rest of the world and how they'll react and what will your reaction to be for all that. And then do what we have to do. Uh, I think we covered the whole lot as to how we need to
So
handle
I have two
this
more
chaos.
scenarios, sir. I have two
Yeah,
more scenarios. One
yeah,
is
please.
what happens when the Russia, let's say we have not gotten into the war at all. Okay, there's a stalemate there in the South China Sea, East China Sea, or whatever war they are fighting with whoever. There's a stalemate. There's a agreement, and they withdraw peacefully. Then thereafter, they again turn their attention towards India, because that's the unfinished business. And this scenario is connected with the first scenario, that it's an unfinished business with China. So if we don't resolve that issue with them in the first scenario, the third scenario will emerge sometime or other, and that is they will turn back towards you, just to show to their, maybe their populace, that okay, we did not win this war. Let's show you. Let me show you. We win this war. That is scenario number 3. And scenario number 4 is very concerning, because this comes into the world of asymmetric war. This comes into the guerrilla. Basically, what I'm saying is that the what we had covered last time, the ring of
The Ring of
crisis
Fire.
zones around India, and we can see that last time we spoke, and today also scenario is same. In fact, I foresee before even having a war with China, I foresee we might have a small or limited war with Bangladesh, or a skirmish kind of thing with Bangladesh. The big chances of that happening in near future, because the northeastern region is completely disturbed at this time. We read about it, Manipur, all the time. But if you remember, moment Muhammad Yunus, caretaker of Bangladesh government, took over, he had categorically said that if there is chaos in Bangladesh, there would be your seven sisters and Myanmar and West Bengal will be burning. This was his statement. Nobel Prize winner talking like this. So you
Yeah, it doesn't
already knew his
easy.
intentions very clearly. I had warned about almost a year back that the Cox Bazar, and where the BNS Sheikh Hasina, it's their naval base with the help of China, using 2 billion Chinese dollars, has been built. It is a submarine base. First of all, Bangladesh has got only two second-hand, 35 years old submarines. So what submarine base they're making and why they're making was question mark. Second thing is the proximity of this Cox Bazar submarine base is less than 100 kilometers away from Tripura. And that is a gateway to northeast. It is not just from Myanmar and Chin state and all, but it is from Bangladesh also. The catching of 6 tons of drugs in the Bay of Bengal, and yesterday's 500 kgs of meth in Arabian Sea by Indian Navy, this shows that the game is already on, because these drugs would have been sold in Indian market, and money would have been diverted just about anywhere we know. So it is a very serious situation. So how would we deal when what Muhammad Yunus said was the Seven Sisters in West Bengal would be burning? Are we ready for that? How we are going to deal with it when we are not able to deal with one situation in Manipur? And we have to remember that USA and China would be doing that. It is if we think that China, or sorry, yeah, USA is our friend, nobody is our friend, and they would support India. As I had pointed out in my that same article, that how the subjugation phase in 4 phases or 3 phases would come. So it would be a mixture of those phases, and they would not allow us the mistake what they made with China. They would not repeat same mistake with India. They would not allow India to rise unhindered without any difficulties. And so the next decade, it is chaotic, but it is presenting opportunity to us also.
Yeah, I think you made some very important points. While the next decade has an opportunity, it's going to be chaotic. That's given. The next point, which you almost made towards the end of what you said, is that look, USA will not allow you to rise the way it allowed China to rise. If it doesn't allow this thing, all the more important for us to rise on our own. If you're not rising on your own, you will not use the opportunity. On the other hand, the fourth scenario, the asymmetric scenario, if it comes and catches you, then you will be just stuck around you. You will only be looking at Pakistan, you'll be looking at Bangladesh, you'll be looking at Sri
Yes.
Lanka, and will not go beyond you. What you described, your ring of fire, which you mentioned, we discussed last time. And in which case you will be only inward looking, and China will then have the leeway to do what it wants to do, and America will sit on the sidelines and just say everything on.
Enjoy the show. Yeah.
So I agree with you that look, in any eventuality between in any eventuality between India and China, Russia will not take any side, and we can count that out as our friend. So I think we have a chaotic next decade coming up, like you rightly said. All your four options have four different ways of doing it, but there's a base which comes out of this, which you yourself have come out to say that look, we need to be indigenous, we need to develop our own capacities, and हमें अपना पैर पे खड़ा होना सीखना है. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Right. I think that was a fascinating talk. You gave your views, absolutely fresh. So, shall I take a few questions with your?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Yes. 100%.
yeah, yeah. Look, let's look at this. I'll go from bottom. A very divergent question. If Russia is fatigued, the Chinese economy is spiraling down, can China launch an attack on Russia on some false pretext? That means what Krishna is saying to say is that will the timelines change of those 6 wars?
See, as I just explained, that they have changed the timeline. They have not attacked Taiwan, and they shifted the war with India, and where also they had stalemate. So the possibility is there, because in their mind they already have these areas where they have to work, and if there's a stalemate, or they are not ready for, let's say, attack on Taiwan, then you never know what happens. But
Yeah,
in the near future, that is not likely to happen. Maybe it will happen, maybe 2030, maybe 2035, but not in 2025. They'll all of a sudden attack Russia and the spoil, because they don't want to spoil the whole game plan what they've already planned. They don't want to derail the bandwagon. They want,
yeah,
they have planned, they would act upon it. If that does not work, then maybe they will shift their attention. But still, I feel that if their plan does not work, they would turn their attention towards India rather than turning towards Russia in the near future.
Yeah, I go with you. The probability is that they will rather go the first three options of their Spratly Islands, Taiwan, and India are their priority. Russia is not. But I think we should not rule it away that this could happen. Maybe not in the next 5 years, maybe in the next 5 years or maybe 10 years. This is there. And there's already some chatter about it. Once in a while it comes in, their media. So it's not as if this you rule it out. And the important thing in this is what Krishna has brought out, I think, is that if such an eventuality occurs, what do we do? Because this is something which we are not normally thinking of. So, yeah, that's the thing. And it
Yes, sir.
presents its own opportunities, and that will something
That's
we should.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Uh, Jai Hind, Jal Shankar and Commander Dhawan. Now that China has pulled back from land border for now, can we expect future standoffs in the maritime sector like IOR and South China Sea instead? And if so, can you please tell us about the readiness of Indian Navy in such situations?
Okay, this it's a very this could be one full topic actually, sir.
Yeah, no, but we'll
So,
just answer in a short
uh,
manner.
see, capabilities wise, uh, China as of today, they don't have capabilities to come to Indian Ocean and start acting the way the US Navy can come and act. Okay, they have not reached that stage. As General Shankar had just told us some time back, that though they have number of ships which are much larger, but if you see the tonnage wise and the capability wise, they are still not there. As well as the training part, they lack the training. Like India has been operating, aircraft carriers for donkey's years, but China just acquired their first aircraft carrier, which is the second-hand casino ship from Ukraine. So it is a very vast question what you asked me. There are what China's worry is about two choke points, because 80% of their fuel still comes from the Middle East side or Africa side. Okay, though Russia has all of a sudden in last couple of months become their biggest oil supplier, but the goods and oil is still flowing from the Malacca Strait, which is one choke point, and then Hormuz Strait. Okay, these are the major choke points, and these choke points can be choked at any time. India faces dilemma only for Hormuz, but we can overcome that. And I had a plan for that, which I had discussed in my talk when I had gone to Elara Ashwamed, the discussion international conference in Mumbai. That is the time I had discussed in detail. If you go and see that video, you will understand that IMEC, okay, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, that was answer to that, okay. And if the primary aim of China was to take away USA towards Middle East by creating chaos there, the secondary aim was to stall IMEC. Okay, and they have achieved that. That IMEC has been set back by a couple of years. Okay, otherwise, 2024 onwards, we were supposed to start working on it, and a lot of work should have already been done. We have already acquired the Hafia port in Israel, and work was going on India. The green hydrogen projects were already starting in India. There's a lot of work was going on that corridor. So that has delayed, but eventually, hopefully, it will come back if situations, as we see in last 3-4 days unfolding, they continue to remain normal. So China, as of today, is not in position to come to IOR and rule the roost. But in future, yes, the way they're progressing, we cannot rule out. But as of today, and at least for next 5 years, uh, we are much better off, and in fact, much better off than even US Navy, because even US Navy could not protect ships the way we have protected ships around Red Sea from Houthis as well as the pirates.
Right. The Chinese will ensure India is completely tied down with South Asia with internal and external chaos before they undertake anything to their east. Are we prepared to handle this chaos? Yeah, that's what Commander Dhawan was saying. We should prepare for it. You see, one of the scenarios we said is you need to prepare for it, right? So we'll not
We
retract
already
this question.
discussed this point,
We've
and
already
we have,
discussed
yeah.
this. This is something which, yeah,
Yes.
right. This is an interesting question. It says, sir, I think China will fall before 2035 like Japan. Your views.
Japan has not fallen as such. Even Angola and Syria and Pakistan also surviving. So it's not that. But you have a valid point. Okay, today's China is like 1985's Japan. Okay, the production capacity, they have overcapacity. They are dumping goods in other countries, and other countries are reacting to it, and they are taking them to WTC, and they are also challenging them in various ways. They're putting levies on them, and so various scenarios are emerging. So in a way, what you're saying is right, that today's uh, China is already today is like Japan of 1985, where Japan, the overcapacity, and because of their yen appreciating drastically, okay, overnight, because of a accord with the USA, their
Azarbaijal.
yen had doubled almost. Okay, so what you saw recently, that a Hong Kong guy is buying a portrait for a couple of millions, which is a banana put on that with a duct tape. So and then he ate that banana. So it's a kind of bullshit going on there, which was happening in 1985. But all of a sudden, Japan was very rich beyond anybody's imagination, and with that windfall of doubling their money, they had just gone berserk, and that is what saw the downfall of Japan from being a leading producer of the world. They became arrogant, and thereafter they have not seen those high points in
Yeah,
their life.
I think you're right. What you're saying is right. What Drew, you must understand. China won't collapse. People of 1.4 billion people will not fall. They'll be there. If not 1.4 billion, they'll be 1.2 billion. But it's a huge country, it will not run away. Only thing is they won't be so powerful anymore. That is on the cards. What Commander Dhawan has said, explained to you, is Japanification of China. The Japanification of China has already commenced, and it's a matter of time it will, go through the whole thing. Yeah, I'll take this as the last question. Yeah, what if the new US president were to start the process of mending fences with Russia and grant them membership to NATO and remove some sanctions?
So see, the best opportunity was with Clinton in early 2000s, when he could have actually gotten Russia into NATO, because he had very good rapport with the Russian President Yeltsin that time. I don't foresee Russia coming into NATO's fold anytime soon. Okay, and it is not just see, in USA especially, it is not the president who runs the country. Okay, there's a permanent set of team behind the scenes, which runs the country. Yeah, yes, USA president is very powerful. He has many things he can do, but when it comes to the grand strategy, USA's grand strategy is it's very simple, that they have to have their hegemony in a democratic way, would say that, okay, or they call it liberalized hegemony. Okay, that is their grand strategy after USSR's fall emerged, and it's a big topic. We can talk about it sometime
I will
later.
talk about it one of these days.
Yes, sir. So that is it.
Yes,
So it,
yeah, finish it. Then we'll take the. Okay. The last question today I'll handle is Namaskaram. China today is famous as a copycat, but for how long? Someday or other they will develop their own design. Japan and Korea were also copycats, but today they have their own. China does R&D. Actually, the question here is, what about us? That's the question we need to answer.
so you have brought out a very valid question. If you see, if you look at their every fighter aircraft, okay, it is either a design lifted from the Russian side or from the Western side. There, other than if you don't look at J20 or J35, the most capable aircraft is J10. Okay, or then it's got variant J10A, J10B, J10C, and what they have positioned in Pakistan recently, J10C, 25 of them. That's the most capable aircraft, but that is the design they picked up from Israel. They outright bought the Lavi fighter aircraft design, which was based on F-16, and that is why this aircraft looks like F-16, and it is a capable aircraft. Okay. Other than that, when you are copycat, yes, you will make some kind of aircraft. Maybe it will not be capability wise or quality wise, it will not be 100%, maybe it will be 40%, 50%. But as the Stalin had said, the quantity has got quality of its own. So they have huge quantity, so that itself becomes a big game changer. Now, one smart thing what they did was when USSR was breaking down, they hired a lot of those scientists and engineers who had gone jobless in those countries, and that is the time India was sleeping. That is why I call it, lost 4 decades, because China was picking up those people. They had know-how, they had worked on those machines, and they just employed them. And that is how. Otherwise, it's not possible that you just have one aircraft in front of you. It's a crashed aircraft or crashed missile, or you pick it up and you start doing reverse engineering. Half of it gets destroyed. Okay, so you can't just do maths like that. So they got those people from there. They hired them. They paid them best money. And again, let me tell you, they are doing same thing with all the Chinese scientists and engineers working in
USA.
Western countries. They are hiring them at the best price possible. And the smartest thing after USA opened their gate to China in 1979 was them asking them to take Chinese students. Okay, and maximum of these Chinese students used to be either from PLA, or they had some family behind who were left as collateral, so that you cannot run away. Otherwise, every Chinese would have run away, by the way. So those people were perforce, they came back in those days, and today they are coming back for the lure of money. Okay, so these are the Chinese rocket force. The father of Chinese rocket force was also actually living in USA for donkey's years, and he came back from there because he must have been paid. Though he said the US Americans, kind of abused me and humiliated me, but that's not the case. He was given the best money possible, and he came back for the money. So India has to do that. India has missed many opportunities, but we are today in today's scenario working. We can see that I see myself that a lot of people from USA, they come, maybe not permanently, but they come as expats, or they come back for the business, or for to work in various companies on various projects. They come back. So it is happening at a smaller scale, but it is happening. But yeah, India has to do a lot. India has to. There's a lot to do, but since there is a lot to do, it is a very, I would say, opportune time for us that we can do so much and achieve so much.
Yeah, I think you covered it up very nicely. I'll just say hello. Someone, Picasso, hello, long time. After a long time, you're coming, right? And well, guys, I'm not going to take more time because we have, yeah, another nice thing. What you said, perfectly said, liberalized hegemony. That's why I get the best people to gun a shot. Only those who know how to express themselves and who do research, only then I get them to gun a shot, and that's why I keep getting Commander Sandeep Dhawan also back. Right. With this, today we'll end with, but tomorrow we're going to do something very interesting. I'm going to have tackle two subjects. One is the increasing China-Pak collusion and the increasing number of Chinese mercenaries, because Chinese mercenaries are going to enter Pakistan. We should know about them, right? And we'll continue what we spoke today, because the theme is now, it's just not China, China, China. You have Pakistan also on the
That's right.
sideline. Talk about that. And we'll also talk of what Commander Sandeep today touched upon, the purging of China, the purging of Chinese leadership, the military leadership. Actually, I'm doing a research on this right now, and I'll talk about it tomorrow or the day after is a matter of thing, but I will talk about it. So interesting days ahead. And next week we're also going to talk of women in combat. This has
Oh.
become a yeah. So please do join us and subscribe. We're going to have an interesting time next week, and of course, we'll not leave Pakistan and China out of our equation. With this, I'd like to thank Commander Sandeep Dhawan for making time to come here and talk about it and put it across in a very nice manner, in the way he looks at it. Because every time someone comes and talks, it's also a fresh look, and it reinforces my ideas or gives me new ideas. And Sandeep, thanks a lot for your views on that.
Thank you so much.
Some
Thank.
of the questions you answered were very good, and it opened my eyes on certain things which I had not focused on. And till tomorrow evening, folks, thank you, good evening, and Jai Hind.
Bye bye, sir. Good day, sir. Jai Hind, sir.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.